NFTs like stickers, just more worthless. Open a business that prints NFTs onto one-of-a-kind pogs for people. Then they can have a physical copy and hoard it like gold and silver bugs. Hmm. Yeah, I can think of a few people that would enjoy that. Like physical Bitcoin. You make physical Bitcoin with paper so it's lightweight, maybe green and rectangular. Well, that would make it a lot easier to carry around on you, right? And then, you'd always have it when you need it. Maybe conveniently stored in something like in like your pocket, right? And then boom, you can pay for goods and services right away. But how do I verify that it's mine? It's in your wallet. See, that's the beauty of it, right? You know it's yours because it's on your person. And then it's like almost like money on other people is their money. Some sort of leather MetaMask account contraption to hold the physical Bitcoin. Well, yeah, I mean, I guess if you're going to stick with the physical Bitcoin model, maybe you could get something that like flips open and just lightly grasps both sides of the coin. And you could show it to people. You'd be like, I'm a Bitcoin owner. I'm good for it. And then, they'll decide how much they trust you. And you guys could come to some sort of social agreement about the value of the coin that you just showed them. And determine if its worth is sufficient for them to provide you with real material goods or services. Some might even call it like a social contract. Sounds like the future of currency. Yeah, I can't wait to live in a world with currency. It's gonna be so exciting. I can finally get rid of all these shells I've been trying to trade to people. No one wants them. I tried to make a homemade NFT money, and then JPOW printed 10 trillion of them and made mine worthless. He really does control the market on that. I'm sorry to hear that you invested all that time and effort into nothing. What if I don't have a lot of Bitcoin and need to borrow? Is there something I could use to pay later? I mean, you could probably come to some sort of structured agreement with a person or entity that has a larger amount of Bitcoin than you. And for, some nominal amount of concurrent interest, maybe borrow part of their Bitcoin for a period of time. And in order to facilitate the consistency of that Bitcoin being paid back, maybe they'd make you make some sort of, I don't know, scheduled payment against the original borrowed amount. That would allow you to buy something worth a lot of Bitcoin all at once, even though you don't have all that Bitcoin currently in your possession. Almost like selling your soul for future Bitcoin leverage. I see what's going on, but this conversation is far more important. You're going to crash the market with this new economic theory. What if I don't want to repay in this BTC lending scenario you have? Well, damn. That's tricky. I guess maybe we could, as part of those social agreements that we've been making with each other, set up another one where if someone were to, like, attempt to avoid paying back that future Bitcoin that they'd, taken leverage of, we could maybe admonish them socially, or make it harder for them in the future to borrow other people's Bitcoin. Can I buy some of that Bitcoin with a credit card? Oh, absolutely. A social score? Maybe. I mean, very brazen, but I like the way you're thinking. It sounds like a pyramid scheme. I'm in. It's sad Gaff isn't here. Kind of. Well, I'm sure initially, the enforcement of some of these social contracts will be violent. But as we progress as a society closer and closer to our Cryptopia, the solutions will become less and less violent. And you know, hopefully, given a long enough period of time, we'll find a way to come uh, up with a more peaceful, less detrimental punishment for failure to maintain the social contracts which you agree to. We may even need to force people to agree to those social contracts upon birth. Maybe by saying like, this person's, you know, part of this society. This is where they were born. They've agreed to all of these social contracts in advance, you know? I don't think we need to jump to establishing a state, right? Well, we could, and then we could take all of our Bitcoin and like centralize it, right? So it's all like all of our Bitcoins in one place. And then, you know, if we want more Bitcoin, then we can make them make that for us, right? And then, you know, sometimes we'll make too much Bitcoin, and then like, you know, they'll have to enact policies and stuff to like, you know, constrain that and bring the value of our Bitcoin. But we'll get to that later. I'm just following the train of logic through to completion on the other side. What if other countries come up with their own Bitcoin? Well, we'll have to do everything in our power to ensure that ours is better, right? Same, but better. When do we get to the part where Bitcoin values are pumped to prevent the collapse of one of the central Bitcoin maintainers, which are too big to fail the society? Well, then we'll reach out to the people who helped build the foundation of this social contract, and we'll say, hey, if we want this to keep going, we need help. And then those people will, you know, probably not be willingly agree, but we may have to force them to agree to salvage that part of the system in order to maintain the status quo. It sounds like taxes, but it's not. It's taking part of that ownership from people and then using it for the, you know, greater good. Yeah, we'll start off calling it tithing, but we can fix that later. Yeah, sharing. They're unwillingly sharing part of their wealth. You know, all of these people are going to be providing goods and services and making goods, right? And then, you know, we'll take some of what all of them make and we'll put it in a big pool. And we'll use that to pay for the things that altogether they probably don't want to pay for. Are we still describing Norway? Maybe. Greg's ESG score is through the roof. What if instead of sharing it, can the rich and powerful just give it to their friends to buy influence? Well, ideally, we're going to create a situation where the rich and powerful are paying more because they've clearly succeeded beyond the average, right? And then, you know, maybe if they want to negotiate a little, we could shave some of that off in order to benefit personally. If crypto bros could understand this rant, they'd be really mad. They'll just be mad anyway. It's their default setting. What if those rich people don't want to hand over their resources to the poors? Well, we'll intervene for as long as we can, but it depends on how angry they make those poors, right? You know, over a sufficiently long period of time, those poors are going to get kind of angry. And that could lead to violence against the rich people. So we could really only protect them so much before that falls apart. But as long as they keep paying us, keep trying to protect them, I assume. But maybe if those poors could kind of overthrow the system, they could create like a store of value that isn't centralized within the system. And then that would definitely create a totally different future. Is there a way that we can make the poors continuously fight amongst themselves? Probably. Yeah. That doesn't seem that hard to do. Just convince half of them something's really important and convince the other half that that thing's bad. 2 political parties for the win. Probably easier to maintain the strife between 2 parties. No need to have 3. Hard to keep track of who to hate then. Well, that's why it's also better to concentrate the wealth It's easier to manage if it's all in one spot. You get too much wealth all over the place. Imagine all the hoops you'd have to jump through to keep track of it all. Wait, have you been alluding to some sort of real-life socioeconomic construct that already exists? No, we're talking about the future of decentralized currency and a new world order that's, tangentially related to the current world order. Maybe over time there's some similarities, but it's totally different. We're just spitballing here. New World Order, same like return to monarchies. Well, we might have, some like in the early stages before things become more centralized and democratic. There may be some people that have like a lot more Bitcoin than everyone else, and they're kind of way more important than the average person, and they may kind of like through that facilitating of lending Bitcoin end up owning the goods and services that those people provide for the entirety of their lives. But after a while, we already discussed, those poor people are gonna get pissed off. They're gonna get fed up with that, and then they're gonna be like, no more. My life is my own, right? And then we'll kind of break up all of that wealth and redistribute it among a slightly larger group of people. Still very small, but slightly bigger. Can you clip the last 25 minutes? I suppose I could.